and why you've written the book.
So Soccology is a book about the psycho and emotional elements of football. So from the welfare standpoint, but also for the art of football and the business of football as well. I've never understood why we don't pay attention to players' feelings, because actually it's not only good for their well-being, but also what we want to get out of them on the pitch is so important. And I wrote the book because of my personal experiences from when, I started off a schoolboy at West Ham, a pro at Charlton, but I worked so hard when I was at Charlton because, not only because you should do, but that was the only thing you have control over, is how much I work. And that would improve my chance of being good on the pitch. But when I got released, Alan Kirbishley said, you can hang around for 3 months if you want to have a look. And I thought, I've been here 3 years. What do you mean? And I was really upset. I didn't say anything to him, though. I walked out the office and Keith Peacock, the assistant, called me in and he said, are you upset? And I said, yes. He said, why? And I said, because I felt like I deserved a chance and I never got it. And he said, you know what? In all the years I've done this, people say that, but I actually agree with you. So I was proud because I've done myself justice, but I thought, hold on a minute, that's not right. So I've wasted 3 years, and the most important years as well, of my football career. So when I left, I was going on trials, I wasn't even fit. So it's easy, someone could easily say, do you know what, he's got a bad attitude, or, you're not fit. But I was damaged, and I didn't know. So I didn't consciously think, you know what, I'm not going to bother. But unconsciously, it was like, if this is what I got served up, I'm not willing to put in that effort again. So what happens, I took a step away from football, set up I was doing like TV work, so all I knew was football. So I was doing like body doubling for Thierry Henry, Ronaldo, all of that stuff. But it wasn't regular work. And then I set up an education company, doing behaviour therapy, engaging people that, who I grew up around in schools who would misbehave and whatnot. But I always wanted to get back into football and I wasn't sure how. So I set up a blog. Soccology was a blog probably about 6 or 7 years ago, talking about my experiences and anything that came up, almost giving a deeper reason as to why. And it just developed, made notes, and then January 2017, I thought, that's it, I'm doing this book. And I sat down, started interviewing players, from the former players, current players, the next generation of players, and finding out what happened. So, for example, the players that are injured, what is it like? Players who are depressed, why? The intelligent players, like, how do you know to find space? Is it natural? Did a coach teach you this? What's the answers? We talk about football all the time, but we don't dig below the surface. And then going outside of football, I interviewed one of the senior partners at KPMG because I wanted to discuss leadership, but not just in football. So looking at leadership in general and looking at what the pluses are in football, what the pluses outside of football, and how they compare. And there's a lot around Mourinho and Sir Alex Ferguson, because I've got a few players who played under them. So it's just looking at football as a whole. And my editor said to me, who's this book for? And I was really gritting my teeth. I was like, I've got to pick someone. And I'll say for the player. But really, if you're a player, it gives you so much insight, whether you're a pro, whether you want to get in the game. If you're a parent, it's so difficult, because I work with parents and like, my son doesn't say anything to me, because obviously I work in the men's game. They don't say anything to me. And it's so difficult. But actually reading this book, it lets you know so much about what's going on in the game, what your child's going through. And also, actually, you're the only one who's got your child's back, because a lot of coaches are not happy when I say this, but the coaches cannot have the player's best interest at heart, because if they do, it becomes a conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. And they do mean well. And by the way, I'm not saying they don't. They mean well, but sometimes parents get blinded by that, and then their child gets released, and then it is just so damaging for the family. So, I can go on all day. I don't know.
No, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I wonder about, you mentioned about the players' feelings, and it's interesting with this Raheem Sterling story today about, from my point of view, he can do what he likes. I don't understand why it's a story, but how when we watch football, we tend to disconnect between the fact that they're human beings and they have feelings when we're watching them playing.
I should say just there, can you see why it's a story?
No. Okay. It's for me, it's just like, oh my God. For me, Raheem Sterling, he's a footballer who provides a service. He's not a product. He's not owned by anyone. And so this is why, unfortunately, we get players. You see it on social media now. If a player wins, they'll say, glad with the result. We, happy to score. And if they lose, we go again next week. They are becoming robots because they can't express anything because they get criticised. His tattoo, he could have 10 tattoos and 10 guns and a grenade. It shouldn't even matter. And even going back to Joe Hart a couple of weeks ago.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, but do you accept that other people would feel, well, hang on a minute, that he is somebody that's looked up to by young people, and this image of a gun, given that, the gun crime, black on black, knife crime, gun crime, this sort of thing, is this a sensible image for him to have? How do you react to that?
What I would say is that him having that gun on his leg does not change the conditions that a lot of young people are growing up in, that I grew up in, that are killing themselves or selling drugs or whatever. So if people are really upset about the gun crime and the knife crime, then we need to look at the real problems that are happening. And when you look at statistics, a lot of it is from kids getting failed in education, which I've worked in the last 12 years. So if we are going to do that, we need to shift the attention from his leg and look at the source. And these, by the way, this isn't just my opinion from me being there, but these are actually statistically proven. So I think that's what we need to do.
And broadening it out, looking at when you talk to these footballers, were they sort of interested because you were talking to them about something that probably no one talks to them about, just about how they feel about
Massively. It's funny because at first I started to reach out to players I knew, and then afterwards, and maybe I'd use the players I knew to get me into contact. To get me to
you've been working with clubs, haven't you, in the Premier League?
Yes, yeah. So, but what it was so interesting just by how their body language was. You could just tell it was almost like, oh my God, you're interested in hearing about me. You're not looking to just pull anything. So a lot of the times, if I couldn't even be with them because it's players from different countries, living in different countries, I'm transcribing like 2 hours worth of video here because literally I want their story. So you would flick a chapter in the book and you would just see them talking about the experience. Anthony Gardner talking about his time at Port Vale, being told he's going to Tottenham, not having the option, but actually Liverpool. He said, who else is interested? Liverpool, Coventry, but you're going Spurs. And then you hear about why he ended up going Spurs and what his experience was like. But no one's actually asked these questions. So the players were stepping forward in droves.
I suppose the other counter argument, I don't even agree, I definitely don't agree with this, but people will say, well, look, they earn a fortune, they earn so much money. Do they need all this protection? Do they need all this help? I mean, people will say this, won't they?
Yeah, they will. And they've been saying it for years, but we have to ask ourselves a question. What do we value in life? Is it money? I mean, for me, no. And if it is, and unfortunately, most people I hear talk about footballers since I was young is, they get paid so much. I think we need to reevaluate in terms of what is important to us in our life. Because if you look at money, I think the average wage in this country, what is it?
26
grand.
Mm-hmm.
So that means across the world, I saw in 2016 it was 10 grand. So actually, we're all quite well off. So that means at work we can all get treated a bit rubbish, really, because we get paid well. How are we going to value this? It's about your well-being. I think for footballers, they're getting more and more detached. A lot of young players are being offered contracts, saying no thanks, don't want it.
I've found from working in football for this long that I look at it and I think, obviously, when I was 10, I wanted to be a professional footballer. Not that I was good enough, but it was just a dream. And then you sort of think, oh, well, it would be great if your kids were professional sports people. And I don't think it's a journey to happiness, generally. Or not an easy one. It can be, and there are lots of benefits. And do you have a conclusion to how people within the game can make, players happier and therefore presumably more successful?
Yes. Yeah, it is. No, but I'm glad you asked it. And this is the reason why I did the book, because for me, I felt like, put it like this, I think every player I spoke to about their kids, each one have said to me, you know what, I don't want my child to play football. Each one. And I always say, well, hold on a minute. You're always looking at the negatives, though. We got to look at everything else that it's given us. We're traveling the world. We get to meet people from different backgrounds. Like the experience is unbelievable. Even in a workspace, as I said, I've worked in education for about 12 years. Ofsted come in, teachers are panicking. But I've been under pressure from being a schoolboy because I don't know if I'm going to get a new contract. Or if my manager's going to pick me the next week. So for me, I'm laughing. I'm like, oh, I'm cool. I'm all right. I'm used to working in high intense pressures. So I think in terms of the environment, people need to be brave. And the reason why I say be brave at the moment is systematically we've got things in place now. We've got the psychologists, we've got the welfare officer, we've got the coaches now required to do even more education. But they have to be brave enough. First of all, the therapists need to be able to support players even when it comes to challenging a coach who's actually doing the wrong things. At the moment, that's not happening. So that's the first thing. The same things we require on the pitch, we require off it. Bravery and courage. Secondly, be brave enough to actually implement what you believe in. We look at, say, Pep Guardiola. He's unbelievable. When he first took over at Barca, I think he lost the first 2 games. He said to Ronaldinho, who's like a global star, yeah, I'm not having you later, because this is how I want it. You don't fit in my plan. And we're seeing now the benefits, but that wasn't easy. So when we're looking at the system as a whole, we need people that are brave enough to support the players' well-being. If we're going to take it forward in terms of creating a new system, we've got to be brave enough to believe in this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. For me, I've written this book. There are certain bits I've had to pull out because I don't want to get sued. But I've had, like, the reason why is because there's certain parts of the game where I feel, yes, people need support. I want the fans to know about these stories of how players have changed, which, if I've got time, I'll share a bit later. But also...
Unfortunately, we have got to move on with Shanks.
Okay.
It's really, really interesting.
The book's called Soccology. The author was Kevin Friend.
Yeah.
Pre-season,
Sounds good.
Pre-season July the 23rd, by the way, Kevin, for Polly.
I'm there.
Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This has also been Jacobs on TalkSPORT.
Thanks. Yeah, so
we need